Hello, world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Nugget Bridge Major final match. This is the third annual Nugget Bridge Major, and we got a very exciting matchup for you guys today between Bjart and Dark
Hello,
Assassin.
world.
My name is Duy, and joining me on the mic today will be the one, the only Scott.
Hey, everybody. Nice to be with you.
So, as we all know, Bjart and Dark Assassin, not too much experience in real life events so far that we've noticed, but both these players have definitely gone through a difficult path to get here. Bjart, of course, in the Swiss rounds, finishing 6-2, 30th in fight number 2. In Swiss, he was able to take on Cybertron and Pukar and other big names. Dark Assassin, of course, finished 7-1 in Flight 1, finishing 4th in his flight. And during the Swiss rounds, he was able to take on big names such as Bila and Ryocon 219. Not to say that everybody else was pretty not well known, but definitely tough paths for everybody to get to where they are. Surviving a field of 449 players, and right now going to battle it out for up to $300 in cash prizes. So that's a pretty exciting match that we got going on here for you right now.
Yeah, it should be good. I'm excited to see Bjart, especially. I've never actually seen him play a game, but I'd heard that he was, one of the better unknown players, I guess, from the German guys. They all seem to respect him. But I guess with so few events in Europe, it's tough to see people play meaningful matches. So I'm excited to see how he does here. He beat a lot of really good players in the top cut. He beat the seniors runner-up from last year, Dark Penguin 67, fellow Nugget Bridge administrator McCurry, Dingram. So he's had a tough schedule there. And I think that even with the lack of real life appearances by these guys in major events, what they've done in this tournament proves that they deserve to be where they're at.
Right, both players now in team preview, such an important aspect of the game of Pokemon. On the screen right now, as you can see, Bjart is going to be running Kangaskhan, Garchomp, Salamence, Aegislash, Rotom Heat, and Gengar, and Dark Assassin's team, which you cannot see in off-screen, is Manectric, Hydreigon, Azumarill, Tyranitar, Amoonguss, and Aegislash. Of course, Gengar, very popular now after Yoshi took the German nationals with it.
Yeah, I think Gengar was a really undervalued in the West. We'd seen some of it, especially in the Japan Cup, as far as a Pokemon that offered some nice support with Will-O-Wisp and Taunt and helped Kangaskhan win Kangaskhan Mirrors. And I think that's really important this year with Kangaskhan being such a popular Pokemon and by far the strongest individual Pokemon that, being able to control that matchup is important. I don't know if we'll see as much of Gengar here because Dark Assassin's only two potential Mega Evolutions are Manectric and Tyranitar. Neither of which Gengar is particularly strong against, although I guess if it's a Dragon Dance Mega Tyranitar, which I wouldn't expect right now, it could be useful there.
Right, Gengar, of course, on Yoshi's team, was not the Mega, which took a lot of people by surprise after gaining that Mega Evolution in this generation. How do you feel about Gengar without its Mega Evolution? Which one do you prefer more?
I think they do different things really well. The support Gengar is really cool in the sense that you can put it on teams quite a bit easier. It's really important to have Taunt, I think, in this metagame because of how popular Aegislash is. So Gengar being able to do that's cool. But the Mega Evolution is also really cool in a completely different way, and I think that's a great use of Mega Evolutions by Game Freak as far as game design because you have a totally different Pokemon where the normal Gengar is a little more offense oriented and more about supporting other Pokemon with its status moves. And Mega Gengar is all about the trapping, and it lets you run a really interesting group of unique gimmicks like Parish Trap and like the Encore disable thing that Tony ran at regionals. So pretty cool stuff.
Right, Gengar, of course, becoming a lot more versatile. Will-O-Wisp, Taunt, great support move pool, actually, from such a frail Pokemon. Uh, Dark Assassin sending out Manectric and Aegislash, while Bjart gonna send out his own Kangaskhan and Rotom Heat. Rotom Heat, of course, one of the few fire types in the metagame right now that is so popular and so strong to hit the very strong steel types such as Aegislash, Mawilds, and all that.
Yeah, it's almost mandatory to have a fire type right now, and since there's so few powerful fire types in this format, it seems like almost everyone's falling back on Rotom Heat. It's interesting that Dark Assassin doesn't have a fire type at all, but he's getting a lot of the same value you'd normally get from a fire type Pokemon from Hydreigon, who has the same attack or same type attack bonus boosted Dark Pulse to deal with Aegislash instead.
Right. Dark Assassin now opting to double switch the first turn, switching out Manectric for the Amoonguss and Aegislash for the Hydreigon. Hydreigon, of course, the Dragon type that resists Overheat from Rotom H. Kangaskhan gonna Mega Evolve this turn into Mega Kangaskhan with the new Parental Bond ability. Of course, Kangaskhan the single mother, and here from Nugget Bridge, we wish everybody a happy Mother's Day. Power-up punch coming out from Kangaskhan onto the Amoonguss to get its double attack boost after Parental Bond making things hit twice. Of course, the Rocky Helmet chip damage from Amoonguss doing a big chunk of damage to Kangaskhan, and Rotom Heat going for the Will-O-Wisp onto the Hydreigon.
A nice start for Bjart there. He really outled DarkAssassin the first turn here, which freed him up to make some safe plays. Took a bunch of damage from Rocky Helmet, which is one of the weird things about Generation 6 to me. Who would ever have thought that Rocky Helmet would be a good item? But with the strength of Mega Kangaskhan and hitting twice every turn, it's really good. I really like the Will-O-Wisp by Rotom there too. I think the temptation sometimes when you have a Pokemon weak to fire out in the first turn is just to blast away with Overheat, but then you really reduce the presence you have in the field. So it's a safe Will-O-Wisp there. Overheat would have done almost nothing if he'd used it, and Will-O-Wisp gets some damage on Hydreigon that will continue for the rest of the game, and also would have been effective even if Aegislash had used King Shield. So a good start for him. And I'm also a little concerned about the fact there's two Pokemon that are super Rotom Heat bait in Amoonguss and Aegislash already, and Hydreigon's already starting to get worn down in front of this boosted Kangaskhan.
Right. +2 Kangaskhan right now out on the field. Definitely threatens that Hydreigon, while Rotom Heat, of course, can blast away Amoonguss with that Overheat. Interesting to note, though, that Amoonguss could easily just Rage Powder away the first attack from Kangaskhan, but then the Rotom Heat will probably finish it off anyways.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that happen, especially if Kangaskhan isn't carrying Protect, because with 2 levels of attack boost, DarkAssassin really needs to prioritize getting that off the field. Another interesting advantage for Bjart here is that since there was a double switch on the first turn by DarkAssassin, we've already seen all 4 of his Pokemon, so Bjart can take some time here and really plan out the rest of the game now. He knows exactly what he's going to face in Game 1.
Definitely. Amoonguss now opting to Rage Powder, and of course the Kangaskhan return coming out onto the Amoonguss for massive amounts of damage, and the first hit already takes it down all the way into the red. Rocky Helmet damage again, gonna bring Kangaskhan down to about 33% or 40%-ish after the Rocky Helmet chip damage, and Amoonguss goes down. Rotom Heat versus Hydreigon right now. Hydreigon using Dark Pulse. Gonna do damage to the Kangaskhan and get the knockout onto Kangaskhan. Pretty big knockout to knock out someone's Mega, and the Rotom Heat Overheat comes out onto the Hydreigon. Not very effective and will lower its special attack by 2 stages.
Yeah, I don't know if I mind that turn if I'm DarkAssassin. Well, he's way behind in the health game here. He does get rid of the enemy Mega, which is a big deal, especially because it already had gotten the 2 levels of attack boost. So Amoonguss did its job there. I'm not sure it would have done a whole lot in the rest of the game just because it would have been really difficult to protect it from Rotom Heat to begin with. And I don't know. I guess the issue now is just to see what Bjart has in the back, because he has a lot of... it's a much easier play for him, I guess, knowing what could come out on the other side.
Right, Rotom Heat, of course, a pretty strong wall against Manectric, and Garchomp comes out, so that is going to be able to outspeed Hydreigon and get the knockout on it for sure.
And so the other part of why I like Bjart's or DarkAssassin's position here a little bit compared to the previous turn is since we did just see Overheat from Rotom Heat, there's a good chance it's going to want to switch out here. So a little bit safer turn for DarkAssassin. He's got a chance to recover here on some level. Garchomp threatening both Pokemon with Earthquake and with Dragon Claw, though. Manectric often carries Hidden Power Ice, so it's going to have to be a little bit careful too.
Right, definitely probably going to see the Mega Evolution this turn from Manectric as well to get off and Intimidate onto Garchomp.
Yeah, which is a nice position for him too, because you've got Rotom at 2 levels of reduced special attack. After the Mega Evolution, Garchomp will be at one level of reduced attack, so he's doing what Manectric does best there, and sort of ending up with a weakened field there that can't put out its full damage to compensate for Manectric's natural frailty.
Right, of course, you called it. Rotom Heat going to switch out. Maybe he will be able to get another physical attacker with an Intimidate, and Aegislash comes out for Bjart as the last Pokemon from his team. And there is the Mega Evolution from Manectric. Gonna get off the Intimidate onto Garchomp. A -1 Garchomp isn't as threatening as a normal Garchomp, as a 0 neutral Garchomp. So right now, the Garchomp gonna go for a Protect this turn. Does not want to take any Hidden Power, and there it is. The Hidden Power comes off onto Garchomp, but it protected itself this turn. And Dark Pulse coming out from Hydreigon onto the Aegislash. Critical hit?
Nope.
No? Focus Sash? That is interesting. Aegislash, of course, it's pretty bulky when it's in shield form.
Yeah, I mean, that's a ton of damage there. I was going to say, I was kind of expecting we would see choice specs, and it looks like that's the case. I think that's a really dangerous switch because of that. Garchomp's in a position last turn where it doesn't really want to open itself up to hidden power ice, and like I mentioned, Rotom probably wanted to switch, but with Hydreigon likely to be, I guess not likely, but there's a decent chance that it's choice locked into Dark Pulse there. You really, really have to be careful about that switch because Hydreigon's putting a ton of pressure out now, and Garchomp can swat it pretty easily now if it wants to with Dragon Claw, but it's going to have to take a Hidden Power Ice to do it. Just a really dangerous position that Bjart ended up in. I don't think he necessarily made the wrong play by switching Aegislash in there, but something was going to get chunked really hard there, and at least this way he'll be able to bring Rotom Heat out again later, which will help him a lot against Manectric and the enemy Aegislash. So I think that was the right play to take, but tons of damage by Hydreigon there, and that's why it's getting more popular again.
Right, for sure. Right now, of course, Manectric threatening the Garchomp, while Garchomp threatens the Hydreigon. Of course, Rotom Heat is still in back. Definitely one of the Pokemon that Dark Assassin needs to keep alive.
Yeah, get some long turns here, which I like to see. Both the players, they're playing for $300 total here, so they're trying to think this out. It's always a little more difficult when you're in that position where you're directly playing for that money. It's easy to get psyched out a little bit, and the first game's really important. There's a chance to come back because this is a best of 3 set, but both players really, really want to get that early advantage.
Absolutely, definitely. Manectric's Hidden Power Ice coming off on the Garchomp, getting the one-hit knockout, and Dark Pulse from the Hydreigon going on to Aegislash, and Aegislash gets knocked out. So right now it is 3-on-1.
Just the Aegislash remaining.
3-on-1.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that Bjart just coughed up the Garchomp there, but I guess there really isn't much he could have done since had he switched, Manectric could have just pinned it with Hidden Power Ice whenever it wanted. It is good information on Bjart's end to learn that the Manectric Hidden Power Ice is going to get that KO in Garchomp. It doesn't always, depending on the way that both Pokemon were trained, but that's going to make this matchup trickier. I think it's hard to imagine recovery at this point. I mean, with the double protect, Hydreigon can go down without doing any more damage, and Rotom does do well against Manectric and Aegislash, so the game's not over, but I'm just thinking forward. Preserving Kangaskhan better in the next game is going to be really important for Bjart because dealing with the 2 Pokemon in the field right now on Dark Assassin side, it's going to be really tricky for most of the rest of his Pokemon.
Absolutely. Of course, Bjart is going to be a bit more cautious about trying to switch in that Aegislash when Hydreigon's out of the field.
Yeah, definitely. And he does have some options there. He does have Azumarill, for instance, and Tyranitar, both of which are resistant to most of Hydreigon's moves. So he could bring one, or I'm reading that backwards. I guess, no, he doesn't. I guess that's really a big problem then, because it's just Salamence and Gengar were the 2 that Bjart didn't bring. And yeah, neither of those switch in very well to Hydreigon. So I guess that's going to be a problem in the remainder of his series here. Trying to find ways to safely check Hydreigon's the move it locks into, because of choice specs, assuming that we're correct in the item there, which I think we have to be.
Probably one of the best ways for him to take out that Hydreigon is to get an easy lead matchup against it in the first place with possibly his Scarf Salamence.
Yeah, I mean, I think he does have Kangaskhan, Garchomp, and Salamence, all of which should be fast-driven and deal an easy knockout to it. I guess Kangaskhan may or may not, but he's going to have to be very careful about not creating opportunities for Hydreigon, because even though it's slow, it'll do more damage than any Pokemon that Bjart has on his side of the field. So little too loose in the first game here, I guess, is playing risky. And game 1 of a best of 3 is always about gaining information, so maybe it won't be too big of a deal, but Hydreigon really dominated this game.
Hydreigon, of course, probably the MVP of this match. Rotom H trying to protect itself that turn, as Manectric Volt switches into it, and Hydreigon's Dark Pulse doing a lot of damage to it as well. So definitely gonna have to go back to the drawing board for Bjart.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not completely sure the adjustment I'd make too. With Dark Assassin's full 6 being Manectric, Hydreigon, Azumarill, Tyranitar, Amoonguss, Aegislash, I think what he picked is probably what I would expect to see similarly in game 2. Seeing Amoonguss. Azumarill, I mean, I think that might be the adjustment I would make on that side, because we mentioned before, Hydreigon, the star of the first game, the faster Pokemon are probably what you'd expect to see Bjart choose to swap in here to try to deal with it, 2 of which are dragons. So Azumarill has some nice synergy there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it coming in here. See some streaming issues here on the players' end. We'll try and get that fixed as quickly as we can as we go into game 2. Good time for the stream to have trouble, I guess, since we were kind of between games anyway.
Downtime it is. If you haven't already, go out and go wish your mother happy Mother's Day again from the cast of Nugget Bridge. We all appreciate our own mothers, so go do that if you guys want to take a little break. And yeah,
I'm fixed fairly quickly here.
Right, it's coming back up as we speak. Scott, how do you think, Bjart can adjust to how that Hydreigon... I mean, I know you've already talked about we got to get... Hydreigon's probably the pet peeve right now for Bjart's team.
Yeah, I think DarkAssassin's core is actually really showing why it's strong. I think Manectric is a Pokemon that's kind of fallen off to me and seemed a little less valuable, especially with the rise of Mega Venusaur. But it looked really strong here. I think the combination of Manectric, Hydreigon, and Azumarill looked really strong, even though we didn't see Azumarill in that first game, just because problems that one of them have is dealt with pretty well with the others. Manectric with Intimidate and the Volt Switch helps control Kangaskhan and has hidden power to knock out both Garchomp and Salamence fairly easily. Although Salamence will be faster with the Choice Scarf and do a decent amount of damage. But Hydreigon, if it can get those threats cleared for it, very easily will remove the rest of Bjart's team. And then Azumarill switches in really well into those dragon attacks should Bjart try to focus them on Hydreigon. So actually getting rid of that Hydreigon could be really tricky here. They're just kind of that game of chicken where, for Hydreigon to actually be a factor, it's going to attack sooner or later. So, can DarkAssassin guess correctly when Bjart is choosing to anticipate a switch or whatever and get attacks off? I'm trying to think of what I think Bjart can adjust with, because the two Pokemon we didn't see there, Salamence and Gengar, don't seem like that have too big of an impact here. Like I can't imagine Gengar being useful at all, especially since Gengar often doesn't carry Sludge Bomb, which would be a pretty important attack here, anticipating Azumarill. But Salamence, I think, would be the Pokemon I would switch in here to try to make an adjustment.
Definitely. Again, now both players are back in Team Preview. Bjart with the Kangaskhan, Garchomp, Salamence, Aegislash, Rotom Heat, and Gengar, while DarkAssassin team off-screen is going to be Manectric, that Hydreigon that we were just talking about, Azumarill, Tyranitar, Amoonguss, and his own Aegislash. So, right now, both players trying to decide what their best options are to try to take advantage of the situation. DarkAssassin, of course, that Hydreigon, proving problems for Bjart. Bjart definitely needs to find a way to counter that Hydreigon. Kangaskhan, probably the best option for him, as we've already said.
Yeah, it's cool to see both Gengar and Hydreigon on these teams here, even though I think the odds that we'll actually see Gengar in this series are pretty low. Both of them have Pokemon that weren't very popular at the beginning of the year, but sort of picked up steam because they were good at kind of countering the metagame that was formed, with Gengar being really good against enemy Kangaskhan and some other physical attackers, and Hydreigon being really good at some of the counters for Kangaskhan, such as Aegislash. So it's nice to see both of them, I guess. Pokemon that maybe they weren't running at the beginning of a tournament, but they've picked up, 2-3 months later now, that help deal with the threats that are popular nowadays. And we do see Azumarill showing up first turn, like I expected here.
Right. Bjart leading with Salamence and the Kangaskhan, while DarkAssassin leading with Manectric and Azumarill. Azumarill, of course, becoming so popular after gaining that fairy typing in between generations. Yeah,
I think one of the Pokemon who benefited the very most from the fairy type being added, along with it and Maul, who also got the advantage of a Mega Evolution. So not really apples to apples there. I do like Bjart's positioning a little bit better here, even though I mentioned it was important to get Azumarill out against the Dragon. It's tough to actually do much safely here, since Manectric's a really important Pokemon to preserve, since it's checking those faster dragons. And if he just lets loose here with Manectric, has a good chance of losing it. He is potentially threatening a Belly Drum with Azumarill. There's a good chance, based on his team, that the Citrus Berry is on Azumarill. So Bjart can't just ignore it. But with the faster Pokemon, at least until the Mega Evolution, I feel like Bjart's position is a little bit simpler.
Right. Definitely going to try to see if he can maybe get out a Fake Out to prevent any setup. Salamence opting to switch this turn. Gonna get out of there. Does not want to take another Hidden Power Ice. And Rotom Heat comes in for the Salamence, and Manectric gonna switch out to Revolving Door Pokemon, as we can see here. Rotom H, not the best matchup against Azumarill because of the Aqua Jet, and Amoonguss will come in from Manectric. Kangaskhan gonna Mega Evolve this turn, gonna get that Parental Bond ability and do a lot more damage with him, more especially bulky, while she's at it. And Azumarill protecting itself this turn, didn't want to take any damage at all this turn. Definitely a smart move. Power Up Punch from Kangaskhan going onto the Azumarill Protect, so that was pretty much a good switch turn, and that's about it. Nothing else happened that turn.
Yeah, I mean, dead turn, but interesting play by both sides to try to maintain momentum there. Both of them kind of realized they were in a precarious position that first turn where a good or bad prediction could really easily have lost them the game. They tried to switch into a safer spot. Good job by Darkassassin to block the power-up punch there and avoid giving Kangaskhan the free +2 like Kangaskhan got in the first turn of the first game, but also a great switch by Bjart to get Rotom out against Amoonguss, which makes it a much more difficult situation on the other side of the field, since it's difficult just to Rage Powder freely with Amoonguss here and risk getting blown up by Rotom.
Of course, last game, Darkassassin sacrifices Amoonguss so early in the game, but he still kept so much control in the game to lead him to squeak him out the victory.
Yeah, it ended up being the right play last game because all the Rocky Helmet damage on Kangaskhan ended up adding up. It did more than half of Kangaskhan's life just by taking 2 hits and not actually attacking back. I think that keeping Amoonguss alive longer this time could be really important for him, especially assuming that, as we'd kind of assumed in the pregame, that Azumarill, Manectric, Amoonguss, and Hydreigon is the 4 Pokemon that Darkassassin brought. I think that having Amoonguss alive longer, it makes it much simpler to end up in situations that he can win in the end game, because if he does get Hydreigon trapped out with Salamence or with Garchomp, Rage Powder allows Hydreigon to win that matchup instead of lose it.
And there it is, the Rage Powder from the Amoonguss coming out, going to draw away all attacks. Power Up Punch from Kangaskhan, going to hit the Amoonguss, not very effective damage. Wow, 15 HP of damage that turn for that hit. Rocky Helmet did way more back to Kangaskhan anyways. And the second hit comes out, did a lot of damage back to Kangaskhan, like you said, that chip damage from that really popular now item, Rocky Helmet, and the overheat from Duy H coming out onto the Amoonguss. Going to be the knockout. So right now it's going to... Ooh, not the knockout. Pretty specially bulky Amoonguss. Didn't expect that. Belly Drum from Azumarill coming out, going to maximize its attack. So now it is a very strong side for Darkassassin.
So 2 really surprising things that turn. That's an amazing play on Darkassassin's side. I couldn't believe that Amoonguss survived that overheat. That's really, really big, because now it can absorb another attack from Kangaskhan before it goes down. Wasting one of the 2 hits that Kangaskhan's putting off and only doing the 16 damage at the first hit. So not a great way to take advantage of that +2 attack. But also that Azumarill has odd hit points, and it's really important if you're using Belly Drum to have even hit points, assuming he doesn't have Citrus Berry, because it lets you get that citrus recovery. But you see Azumarill sitting at a good old 50% HP instead of 80 right now. Hopefully that mistake doesn't end up costing the game for Darkassassin there, but a slightly less commanding position than he probably should be in.
Right, that Amoonguss, of course, taking that overheat. Not really seeing that, because most of the Amoongusses now are trained to be physically bulky for such a physical metagame, but probably Darkassassin saw that. Rotom Heat's popularity rising, so he thought to himself, I need to train Amoonguss to survive those Rotom overheats a lot better.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's a defensive Rotom setup too, but surviving that overheat is so huge. Like I thought that Darkassassin was going to end up in a really positive position with Amoonguss feigning there, because I was also assuming that would be the knockout. But man, with Amoonguss up here, it's a really tough spot for Bjart now. He's going to have to play the rest of the game extremely carefully. He has to deal with +6 of Azumarill. Amoonguss is still alive. If it has a regenerator, it can switch out and get a bunch of that health back, though I probably wouldn't in this case. He still has Hydreigon, which we were in Manectric, which we were talking up to the pregame, but suddenly they don't even look like the biggest threats anymore.
Right, Kangaskhan gonna get out of there. Does not want to face off against Amoonguss and the +6 Azumarill. Salaman's gonna come in, try to intimidate that Azumarill back down to 5 levels, a 5-level boost of attack. But I mean, honestly, at +5 still, that Azumarill will still be chunking everything. Amoonguss gonna Rage Power this turn, and the Aqua Jet coming from Azumarill onto the Salamence, already doing about 50% to Salamence after that Intimidate, and Rotom Heat with that overheat back onto the Amoonguss. Now Rotom H is at -4 special attack, so that Rotom Heat is no longer that much of a threat to Darkassassin's side until it switches out.
Yeah, I do like that play by Bjart there. He didn't. In some ways, I think he actually put himself in a more dangerous position than the one he started in by knocking out Amoonguss there. But the Salamence switch, it was really good there. Azumarill obviously seeing the biggest threat in the field is Kangaskhan, since Rotom was already at -2 special attack. So, pretty easy to anticipate. Azumeral's probably attacking that slot. If he wants to take the game back later, he's got to preserve Kangaskhan a little while longer. So, a good play to kind of bring Salamence in and survive one attack from Azumeral. But now he's going to take another, and Hydreigon get out for free. So, it's putting out pressure too. Still a really, really precarious position by Bjart.
Right, as we saw in the previous turn, that Aqua Jet will already do about 50%. Should be able to get the knockout, barring a low damage roll this turn from the Azumarill, and Hydreigon will be able to freely Dark Pulse or even use any attack from that massive special attack stat that Hydreigon has. So good position right now for DarkAssassin against Bjart, even though he is down 3-4.
Yeah, I think one error by Bjart last turn, though. Overheating instead of Will-O-Wisping there is pretty risky. Will-O-Wisp still would have gotten that knockout. It would have left it at +2 attack or -2 attack or special attack instead of -4. Still probably wouldn't knock Azumarill out where it's at, but at least you're putting threatening damage out. I think reducing the special attack there was a little silly, especially with that boosted Will-O-Wisp accuracy in 6th generation that never seems to help.
Of course, as we all know, Will-O-Wisp went from 70 accuracy to 80 accuracy to, kind of give it a bit of a boost after what happened at Worlds with Aaron Cybertron Zhang. Right now, the Aqua Jet from Azumarill coming off, knocking out the Salamence as we predicted last turn, and the Hydreigon Dracometer coming out onto the Rotom Heat, and that is going to do massive amounts of damage. Would not be surprised if it picked up the one-hit KO as well, and it does. That Hydreigon is definitely carrying a Choice Specs, not a Choice Scarf, if any of you guys remember from last year when I played at Regionals.
Yeah, it's another one of those situations where you see the power of Choice Specs there. I'm assuming by how piddly the overheats from that Rotom were that it is a very defensive set. And still, Hydreigon knocks it out like it's not even there. Some pretty impressive damage there. And I guess we're seeing the power of Hydreigon again. It seems like every single year this happens where we'll have, Hydreigon will not be very popular early in the format, and then as the year goes on, gradually we start to think maybe it's the best dragon after all. Really, really precarious position by Bjart here. He's potentially down to the last 2 Pokemon he's going to have for the Nugget Bridge Major. If he wants to get the grand prize of $200 there, he's really going to have to think of a clever plan here, because we had full health Hydreigon, even though it's at -2. Manectric's still at full health in the back. Azumarill's still at 50% here. The Citrus Berry. Hopefully, for Bjart's sake, he can find a way to knock that Azumarill out without taking another Aqua Jet and without activating the Citrus Berry, but not so.
And Aqua Jet from Azumarill coming off onto the Kangaskhan. That is an easy knockout, and Garchomp with the Dragon Claw onto the Hydreigon. Gonna leave it with about 17 HP, and Hydreigon fires off another Specs boosted Draco Meteor. Even at -2, this is still gonna do massive amounts of damage, and this is it. Garchomp versus the world. Oh, just pick up the knockout anyways, and DarkAssassin wins the Nugget Bridge Major for $200 cash prize. Of course, Bjart will go home with a $100 cash prize, which is still pretty good for one of the biggest online tournaments that we've ever seen.
Yeah, really impressive set by DarkAssassin there. I thought the synergy in his team was really great, and he played that last game perfectly. In spite of the weird odd number Azumarill HP there, he was never really in. Yeah, the result of that match is never in doubt. He was in control the whole way through. Outside of having sort of a difficult lead in the first position, or the first turn rather, he switched into a better position, has kind of dominated the entire game there. Amazing series by the Hydreigon and the Azumarill on DarkAssassin's team. We're definitely seeing why both those Pokemon have been pretty popular recently.
Right, Hydreigon, of course, was one of those Pokemon that at the beginning of generation we kind of looked at it and we're like, oh, Fairy typings introduced, it walls both of its stats, but as you can see here right now, that Hydreigon still is a very strong dragon to bring to battles.
Yeah, so congratulations to DarkAssassin there, and also to Bjart. A great run by both of them this tournament. They'll both go home with some money, and can't complain about that. I'd like to thank DarkAssassin and his brother for getting the stream together. I know it took them some effort figuring out how they could make this work for us, but we do appreciate everyone getting to watch the match here, and I'm sure the audience appreciates that as well. So thanks to them, and thanks to the viewers for watching.
Right, and also congratulations to everybody who participated in this big event. Of course, the top 8 got invites to the Nugget Bridge Invitational, so you'll be seeing a lot more of Bjart and DarkAssassin in that tournament as well. Again, DarkAssassin winning it all in a very, very, very dominating fashion. 2-0 in DarkAssassin's favor. He takes home $200 and a Nugget Bridge shirt, while Bjart will be taking home $100 and a Nugget Bridge shirt. So we got a lot of streaming planned for the next 2 weekends. I plan on being at the Hollister Premiere Challenge to stream that. And then the week after that, there's going to be another Premiere Challenge just across the bay from me. So hopefully we'll be able to stream those for you guys as well. Thank you all for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed it.